Hello, you guys. So this is going to be the re-recording from day one of my Course in Miracles study group. I had an awesome conversation with Michael today. It went really well. If anybody else is interested in joining, it's completely free. I'm doing it on Zoom just so that we have more of a face-to-face communication as we read through A Course in Miracles. It will be going on until we finish the book, which may take a couple years. It's a very big, juicy book. So yeah, if you guys are interested, email me. I'll leave my email below. And I hope you enjoy this recording of today's live.
Okay, so today we're going to read the first part of chapter 1, which is the meaning of miracles, and it's a 50-point list that sort of just introduces us to miracles. And I took some notes on it, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start reading and then I'll pause and we can talk as it naturally occurs.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Okay, so number 1, there is no order in difficulty of miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal, which I think is so beautiful. And I think that reminded me, already got me started in wanting to introduce my perspective of miracles. To me, a miracle is simply just a shift or a change in perspective. Truly, our vision of reality is so distorted and so clouded by our ego and by our limiting beliefs and these things that, what did I write down earlier when I was taking notes? Okay, yeah, they distort our vision of the truth of reality, which the truth of reality is that we are still in heaven. We never left heaven, which is not a physical place, it's a vibration. And what happened was that this is what I've gathered over my years of studying the Course in Miracles. We still are, and we were home with God, with Source. And this thought arose of like, what if we were separate? What if we were separate from God? And then in an instant, in the holy instant, all of time happened as our what if, as the answer to our question, because we are so powerful that we can create realities with one simple question, such as what if we were separate from God? And in that thought, all of time and space was instantly created, and we went through and experienced it all and then instantly came back home to God. We never actually left. And what we are in right now is the experience of our thought. We are currently experiencing the thought of being separate from God, but it feels so real. And so we must not get so lost in the idea that none of this is real. We have to integrate it and be present and honor that it feels real, respect that it feels real, but know that it is an illusion. And so to me, a miracle is simply just a shift in perspective where for a moment in time, we see the truth. We see that we are home. We feel such an extreme sense of peace and bliss that we are home, that we never left, which is also called a revelation. And so all miracles are trying to do is clear the fog from our sight so that we can see the truth of where we are, which is home with Source. We are home. We are in heaven. Yeah, seeing what is already here, which is heaven on earth. A miracle is a reorganization of our mind into right thinking. And when we're in our ego mind, we're basically we're insane. We're crazy. We create insanity when we're in our disorganized mind, when we're in the ego. And so miracles are working to reorganize our mind into correct thinking, into seeing where we truly are. So with that being said, I'll just continue to number 2, unless you had something to add or ask.
Yeah, you said something about like miracles reorganizing chaos into order or something like that. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking of it's kind of the way I've been treating people is like
Mm-hmm.
I've recognized when people are in their ego and it is very chaotic, and just hitting them with like as much love as I can give them somehow is able to like it just reorders all that chaos into something closer to what is true or what is right.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's exactly what a miracle is
So yeah,
through, sorry, my little camera holder is slipping. Um, yeah, it's just being able to correct our perception and send people through prayer and through thought and reorder the world through our own perception. And then that kind of like feeds out into reality and helps to reorganize other people's perception of the world as well, even if they may not fully understand like what
hmm
is happening. So that's awesome that you do that. I misplaced my little holder thing, so I have to use a suction cup. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I had to fix that. Okay, so
no worries.
number 2, miracles as such do not matter. The only thing that matters is their source, which is far beyond evaluation. Number 3, miracles occur naturally as an expression of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle, which then brings us back into there is no order in miracles, they're all equal. You know, if you have love in your heart when you smile at somebody at the grocery store, it's the same as, I know this is going to seem drastic, but it's the same as a miracle of a mother whose child is in danger, and all of a sudden they have this like insane strength and capabilities that cause them to like lift cars and do crazy shit from a place of love. To our human mind, because we still have duality, we see one to be greater than the other. Like obviously the mom being able to save her baby is so much greater than the miracle of smiling at someone at the grocery store, but that's because we still view the world through duality. Whereas whenever we come back into unity, into an organized perception of reality, we begin to see that they're the same because their source is the same. The source is in both instances coming from God. And so
hmm
one expression of God cannot be lesser than the other expression of God unless we're viewing it from a separate mind, which I think is powerful and beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I that the thing about like smiling at someone at the grocery store or like them smiling at you, you always, or at least I often recognize it as like, oh, there it is again. And it kind of like sticks with me. And then you can kind of, it like flows through you throughout the rest of the day. Like that stays with you. And you're like, oh, there it is. And you can kind of stay there for a while and like be in that space for longer. Like there's a momentum to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it uplifts you. It's sort of, it's a bridge back home. And so for a moment, for that time that it's staying with you, you're home, you're in the frequency of heaven.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. Okay. Number 4, all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. Miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selecting miracles can be misguided. Wow. That always makes me think of learning how to surrender to the higher power, taking our ego completely out of the decision. You know, whenever we think that we're doing something from our minds, we're trying to control reality through the perspective of our ego because it's what we think is best for the situation. Whereas when we can learn to surrender to the higher power that is always communicating to us in our heart space, when we can learn how to get in tune with that and operate through that space, which then you're not hearing your thoughts and then doing what your thoughts tell you. You're just naturally moving through the flow of what your heart is guiding you to do, which requires no thought at all. And so sometimes when we think from our ego, we're going to go perform this great miracle and we're going to change somebody's life. It may be something that hinders them, but because we're viewing it all from our ego, we can't see God's plan, which I'm not saying that we should be able to see God's plan for everybody, but there's always this quiet whisper, and God is always quietly whispering to all of us so that everybody can live in harmony with what they need in each moment in time, if that makes sense. So even if we feel like we're saving somebody, if we're doing it from our ego, we're not helping them in the ways that God knows that they need to be helped. And that can be really challenging sometimes, because we get stuck in this, like, what's like the savior, like sometimes we can get trapped in this savior complex of feeling like we need to save everybody and save the world, which is funny. And this is something that I work on consciously all the time. And I'm just like, April, you're not here to like save people. We're here to show the way. And if people choose to see and follow, then cool. If not, cool. Not saying that I'm leading the way in any I'm doing my best, but I'm not like comparing myself to Jesus in that regard or anything. Like he definitely paves the way for us to follow, and I'm just following the path that Jesus and so many other ascended masters have laid out in front of us. So anyways, I could continue on with that for a long time, but just it's so beautiful when we can learn to see when we're trying to save people from our ego versus when we're actually allowing God to work through us and perform miracles. Okay, number 6. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Wow. I love that. And I'm going to be honest, that one I've read that so many times and it just stumps me. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Of course. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Almost like we're naturally meant to be flowing from our heart space. And when we're not naturally flowing from our heart space, we're blocking miracles with our mind. And so when we're not flowing in a miraculous place, it means something is going wrong, like our ego mind is hindering us in some way. Is that how
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, sometimes like when I'm making a decision, if there's a way
Mhm.
to take myself out of it and introduce some kind of randomness, like I'll flip a coin or choose to go somewhere I would never normally choose to go, or whatever it is. And I often find that that's when those moments happen of like miracles and everything just turns out perfectly. Wow. If I would have like consciously tried to do that, there's no way that ever would have happened. But not to go on too much of a tangent, but there's a book called The Alchemist where
Mm.
the main character has these stones and they're used in a similar way, and that's kind of where I got the idea from. But yeah, just take yourself out of it and see what happens.
I love that. I love that idea of just flipping a coin or like doing something at random just to see, to take yourself out of the equation completely.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Number 7. It might take us more than one day to get through all 50 of these.
Well,
That's okay.
sorry if I'm talking too much. I mean, it's your show,
Oh,
so you have the floor.
no, no, no. That was nothing against you. That was, I just haven't done something like this before. And in my mind, I was like, oh, well, we could just read all 50 of these in the first day. And I don't know, they're just, every line is just so juicy. I feel like we could talk about it forever. And that's the whole point of what we're doing, is to dissect and study and talk about what we're reading. So
For
I
sure.
think this is, I think this is beautiful and perfect. I was just laughing at myself for thinking that it would be possible to get through all 50.
There's a lot in there. That's for sure.
There's a lot in there. Number 7. Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Miracles are healing because they supply a lack. They are performed by those who temporarily have more, for those who temporarily have less. I love that line so much because it just really is telling us that we are all equal. There is nobody who has more or who is greater than. It's just in this temporary expression, it seems to us as though, what did it say? Some temporarily have less and others temporarily have more. And a miracle is like a balancing out of the scales. It's where those who have temporarily more are giving to those who have temporarily less, and then it rebalances. I love that. Number 9, miracles are a kind of exchange. Like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. Which reminds me of when you were saying at the grocery store, whenever you are smiling at somebody and you're performing this miracle, it uplifts your spirit as well as it probably uplifts theirs, because a miracle is for both the giver and the receiver.
Yes.
The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. Prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. Okay. Prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. Wow, it's almost as if when you pray, like for example, I don't know if you're familiar with the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. It's very fascinating to look into. It was this doctor in Hawaii, and I know the bones of the story, but I might be sparse on the details. But essentially, this doctor in Hawaii had this theory of how healing occurs miraculously through prayer and how Jesus was able to heal people. And what he did was he created this prayer, the Ho'oponopono prayer, and it's I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And he went to an asylum and he asked the director of the asylum for a list of all the people who were not enlisted there, but that were there. And he never went to go see them in person. He simply just had their name. And what he would do is every single day he would show up to the hospital and he would say that prayer with their names, essentially saying, I'm so sorry that I can even perceive you as sick. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And his theory he was stating was that when we see somebody else as sick, then we are also sick. The fact that we can even perceive a child of God as sick is a misperception on our own part as well as a misperception on their part. And so by asking for forgiveness and apologizing for having this misperception, we're able to heal each other. And that is how these like miraculous healings take place. And so he did this for like 6 months or a year or something like that. And he showed up to this hospital every single day and went through the entire list of names and said that prayer with everybody's name every day. And the people of this hospital started healing. They started
Wow.
coming back into their body, and it worked. His theory worked, and he was able to. I'm not sure if it was all or just some, but he was able to heal people just simply through prayer alone. He never went to go see them. He never met any of them. He never talked to any of them. It was simply just
Wow.
through knowing their name and praying for them and
Wow.
asking for forgiveness, which is crazy powerful. And so I do that often. I could be better about it, but say for instance, if I'm driving and I get road rage, I say that prayer. I say, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And it just miraculously shifts the energy. Um, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Sorry, I
almost
do
like
not.
the what you said about perceiving someone as sick makes you sick
Mhm.
yourself. It's because, well, it seems like you're choosing to see them in that way, and so you're
Mhm.
choosing to ignore the part of them that is good, and and you're allowing your mind to kind of go into a darker place, which hurts you. Has nothing to do with the other person, really.
Yes, it's almost as if like the miracle occurs when we choose to see straight through the illusion to the core of their being, which is the essence of God. And just practicing that every day, just choosing to see everyone around us as the truth of who they are, and choosing to see ourselves as the truth of who we are, as opposed to the misperceptions we create in our minds, which is very challenging to do, because then you're basically walking through life forgiving everybody that you see.
Yeah.
Whenever, right? Like, I'm so, like, anyways, I could talk about that forever, but it's amazing. Prayer is amazing. Number 12, miracles are thoughts. Thoughts can represent the lower or bodily level of experience, or the higher / spiritual level of experience. One makes the physical and one creates the spiritual. So that is how our thoughts create realities, right? Like, our thoughts represent our lives on such a base physical material level, but then whenever you can go up in dimension, everything in this physical dimension has a higher form and higher realities. Like, even this water bottle, like, in this physical reality, it has this dense form, but its form doesn't just stop here in the third dimensional level. It, as you go up to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 21st dimension, it has a it has like a template for each other dimension in how you perceive reality in each dimension. This is just how you would perceive this in the physical, in the 3D, in the 5D, or whichever. But as you go up
Yes.
in dimension, it still exists, just in totally different forms.
And the person who invented and designed that water bottle first received it as a thought first, before it became a thing. So it's almost like it was brought through all those dimensions into the physical form by its creator. And so yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is so cool. That's blowing my mind. Number 13, miracles. Like, anyway, sorry, just cracking myself up over here. You got to have little jokes with yourself to make life fun.
Yeah,
Miracles
for
are
sure.
both, yeah, that's why I'm always just randomly laughing, because I'm probably just, I don't know, I think I find humor in life, in
Me
everything.
too.
So
I think
sorry.
God has a sense of
Okay.
humor.
Okay, good. Because I just always am randomly laughing, and people are probably like, is she okay? Number 13, miracles are both beginnings and endings. So they alter the temporal order. They are always affirmations of rebirth, which seem to go back, but really go forward. They undo the past in the present and thus release the future. Wow. See, this is the kind of stuff that is said in this book that you have to like reread a bunch of times. That's the only reason I would recommend getting the physical copy, just because for me,
Yeah.
at least, it's always easier to read and understand than listen and understand. But I'm going to read that one more time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Miracles are both beginnings and endings. And so they alter the temporal order. They are always affirmations of rebirth, which seem to go back, but really go forwards. They undo the past in the present and thus release the future. So essentially, we're utilizing the present moment to alter all of reality, only because the past and the future do not truly exist. They only exist within our own minds. And so if we can get present in the moment and be with what is arising, whether it's grief, or anger or unrelenting anxious thoughts, whatever it is, if we can be in the discomfort of these things and bear witness to them from a neutral space, we dissolve the power they have over us. It's almost like we step out of the hypnosis that they have us in, and we're able to pull back and perceive it all from a more neutral and loving, compassionate space, which in and of itself is the miracle. And when we're capable of doing this and forgiving our thoughts, forgiving our misperceptions of reality, it releases us from the past, from the attachments to the past, which then rewrite the future. Because when we're not attached to the past or sad or depressed about the past, we're going to write a completely different life than we would have when we were still holding on to regret and things like this.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
does that make sense? Okay.
Yep, that's resonating with me, especially from something I experienced yesterday, but I don't want to overshare, so I'll just leave it at yes.
You're like, yep, thumbs up. Okay, good. Okay, number 14. Miracles bear witness to truth. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. Without conviction, they deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive, or rather, the uncreative use of the mind. Okay. Miracles bear witness to truth. So a miracle is simply just revealing to us the truth of the situation, pulling back the illusion and having us face the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. They arise from that place within us that just knows.
Yeah.
Right? There's just there's something inside of us that just knows the things that are true, that just knows the things that resonate. Or for example, whenever you love somebody and someone asks you, oh, prove it. How are you going to prove that you love them? You just know that you do. So it's from this space. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. Miracles arise from the place within us that just knows. Without conviction, they deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive. This is the part that confuses me, only because I don't understand the deterioration into magic. I suppose it's saying that magic is less than miracles. Do you get anything from that? Or
Deteriorating into magic and becoming destructive. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, me either. Me either. Just okay. The uncreative use of the mind. Yeah, I'm stumped on that one, but that's okay. That's why we're here. We're learning.
Yes.
And okay, I'm just going to go to 15. Maybe that will make sense to us later on.
Yeah, maybe it's foreshadowing of something.
Yeah. Yeah, we're only on page 2. So number 15. Each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively. It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. Now, I absolutely love this concept because it's essentially telling us that time is malleable. Time is a tool for us to use. And the only reason that we're still in time is because we are playing a role that still has a purpose. The only reason we exist in this physical body, in space and time, is because we have a purpose. And this comforts me on such a deep level, because for so long I felt like I had no purpose in life. And so this concept is always something I come back to in those moments where I feel as though my existence is meaningless, which I think those kind of existential thoughts happen for everybody. And it's in those moments that I'm able to come back to this concept that the only reason time even exists is because it's a means to an end. It's something we're utilizing to bring the sonship of God home, which the sonship is just all of us combined, the one Son of God. Essentially, as you read on in this book, it explains how Jesus is not the only one Son of God. We are all the one Son of God in perfect unity. But because we are down in density and duality, we've split up, and now there's millions of us. If you think of souls and other dimensions and planets, then there's billions and billions and billions. But anyways, the only reason that we are in space and time is to bring all of the sonship back together so we can collectively return home to God. And it is in this reminder that I personally find deep purpose and meaning, especially on days where I can't find it anywhere else. I'm like, okay, well, the only reason I exist is to return home to God. So there's my purpose right there. And so learning how to not utilize time from a point of view of capitalism, like your time is money and these kind of weird brainwashy mantras, but more from a place of like, what is the next best thing for me to do that will cause me to feel even more deeply connected to God, whether that's take a nap, whether that's cry, whether that's bake cookies, whether that's watch a funny movie, whatever, or create a YouTube video or a program or whatever it is for each of us individually. It's like, what is the next best thing I can do with my time, this resource of time, that will help me to remember and feel closer to God?
Yes.
Which is so beautiful.
It's like, what can I do that serves everyone right now? Like, what is the thing that is going to be most useful to the universe? And sometimes, yeah, sometimes it is just like taking a nap. Like, it doesn't have to be this monumental thing. But that was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, me too. And that's such a great way that you put it, like to serve the universe, right? Because that in and of itself is such a humble question where we can say, you know, I don't know what the next best thing is for me to do. Like my ego doesn't know. Maybe I should just surrender and ask God what the best thing for me to do is, because God knows, the God or the universe, if you like that word better, the universe knows way better than I do about what I need to do next. It can see the full picture. And so just being humble enough in our ego to ask rather than to just believe that we know everything, which some days the next best thing for me to do is to stay in my house and not go out into the world and be angry everywhere, right? So when I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, okay, this is how I know. It depends on the day. Yeah. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, okay, I know I'm in a bad mood, like, and I should not be around people right now because it's just gonna create these negative thoughts, and I don't want to like curse anybody with my thoughts, so I'm just gonna stay home.
It's some self-awareness. That's important.
Yes. Number 16. Miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating it as blessed to give as to receive. They simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply the strength of the receiver. Okay. Devices for demonstrating it as blessed to give as it is to receive. So when we are in the flow state, surrendered to God, walking through life miraculously, it's strengthening everybody around us. And because of that, it's also strengthening us. It strengthens everybody involved. Beautiful. Okay, number 17. Miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility, away from the bodily level. That is why they heal. Okay, miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility, away from the bodily level. That is why they heal. I think this is expressing that, how do I want to put this into words? Essentially that while yes, our bodies are beautiful and miraculous, and it's important to have a healthy relationship with our physical body, and it is an expression of God in form, there is something higher than, there is something greater than our physical form, and that is where the miracles are being, that is where the miracles are occurring, is in the invisible realms to this reality. And so when we try to create miracles on a bodily level, we're limiting the expression of miracles. Miracles are invisible. And even when we don't know that a miracle is occurring, or we don't think that a miracle is occurring because we can't see it physically, it is still occurring in the invisible realms. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. And that's a very important thing to remember, just because sometimes life can seem so dense and so dark after doing this work for a while that we begin to believe that there's something wrong with us or that we're doing something wrong. But what I believe is that the deeper we go into this work and the more dedicated we become to this work, there are always happenings and miracles going on in the invisible realm. And when we can tune into our sixth sense, we're more likely to be attuned to this knowledge of what's happening behind the scenes, but to not cling so tightly onto the external, onto the physical, because sometimes it can look like our lives are totally just burning down all around us, and we think it's because we did something wrong or there's something wrong with us. But in reality, it's almost as if it's the death before the rebirth. But the rebirth, the miracle, cannot occur before the destruction. The destruction comes first. The destruction always has to come first. And we must trust so deeply during the destruction process that miracles are happening in the unseen realms. We are being divinely guided and supported in the invisible realms, even through the destruction. And that it's just part of the process. We can believe that the miracle is the end result, but the miracles are occurring all the time, everywhere. Even the destruction of things that were built upon lies or built upon our ego is a miracle. It just doesn't feel comfortable. So if we use our ego mind to view the crumbling of something that was built upon a lie or built upon our ego, and we view it with our ego, it looks like the world is ending. But if we view it with our spirit, we see what a miracle it is that this destruction of lies is happening before our very eyes, so that something can be reborn from the embers on a stronger, more solid foundation built upon God, on source, on spirit.
Yes. So beautiful. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to convert that pain and know it's going to be something beautiful as a part of the process, like just feeling it and knowing that this is an opportunity right now. The reason I feel something so strongly is because something big is about to happen, and I just need to endure this and be neutral about it and just know. So that's a cool one. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, just tuning into that sixth sense of knowing, of just knowing. And I repeat this in my mind all the time. Everything is working out best case scenario. Even when it doesn't look like it is, when something that's in my either micro or macrocosmic level seems to be catastrophic, I just continuously repeat that mantra to myself. Everything is working out best case scenario. Not to spiritually bypass, of course. I sit with what is, and I do, and I do what I need to do. But at the end of the day, after moving through it, if we can just tell ourselves everything is working out best case scenario instead of allowing our thoughts to spiral into the dark places, we are working with the miracle as instead of working against the miracle. It just takes awareness and discipline.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna do one more, and
Okay.
then since you don't have a copy, I'll just, because we got to number 18 today, so I'll just type up 1 through 18 on an email and send it to you so that you can read over it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Just because that's what would help me anyways. Like, I'm a very visual person. If someone's reading it to me, I'm just kind of like, okay. Kind of like whenever someone's like trying to explain a board game to you and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
actually play the
Yeah.
game here.
I'm trying to listen very intently, but you're doing a great job, but it is hard without the tense there.
Yeah, I'll type it up and send it to you.
All right.
Okay, number 18, last one, and then we can close out. Uh, a miracle is a service. It is the maximal service you can render to another. It is a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. You recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. Yeah. A miracle is a service. It is the maximal service you can render to another. It is a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. You recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. And this just brings us so deeply into radical acceptance and forgiveness, not just of ourselves, but of others, of choosing, like we had said earlier in this conversation, choosing to see straight through the distortions to the essence in their heart of who they truly are, and choosing to speak to and love that part of them. Not condoning mistreatment, not allowing people to walk all over you, right? Sometimes unconditional love is tough. Sometimes unconditional love doesn't feel good because it almost demands that you and others treat everybody and speak to everybody from that space of holiness, which when people are not acting in that sense of holiness, in that sense of godliness, or I don't know, for lack of another term, I know not everybody resonates with the words like God and stuff like that, but when people aren't working or living from that space of godliness, it is coming from unconditional love to, of course, to ask and to know when to say something and to know when to just remove yourself from the situation, but being able to say no that is not okay. Don't talk to me that way. Don't treat me that way. Learning to set healthy boundaries that may be uncomfortable for you or for the other person comes from a space of unconditional love. And so whenever we truly begin to learn to see people as that spark in their hearts, as the essence of God that we know that they are, when we begin speaking to them from that space, it's almost as if it becomes a responsibility to only speak to that part of them and to hold boundaries with the ego part of them that wants to lash out, that wants to be hurtful. And so unconditional love is not always soft and gentle and sweet, but like there's Kali Ma and all these other divine, dark feminine goddesses that when we work with them, we can learn how to be that fire that is sometimes required in a space of unconditional love. And that's a whole, I could make an hour-long video about that topic, so I'll just leave it there.
All right. Yeah. The thing I wanted to say about that last one was sometimes I think the biggest gift you can give to somebody is just to tell them the truth. And it can be uncomfortable for you and the other person, but I think that is really loving someone, is to be able to tell them the truth.
Yes, that is so true, right? And learning to speak from the truth of our heart rather than the truth of our ego,
Yes.
because this can get misperceived by people and by me often. I make mistakes all the time and I have to apologize for things all the time because I'm very fiery. And so sometimes when I think I'm speaking from the truth of my heart, it later gets revealed to me that I was speaking from the truth of my ego. And so just learning to decipher the two truths, learning to really tune in and be so self-aware that even after the situation, you're able to look back and be like, well, I thought I was speaking from the God in my heart, but I think I was speaking from my ego mind. Maybe I should apologize, right? And that is just bringing that deep humbleness into it can be so powerful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well said.
Awesome. This was so awesome. I'm so glad that we got to talk and hang out. This was great.
Yeah, this was good. Thank you for setting this up. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about it. So I have literally no idea how long it's going to take us to get through this book. So I'm not going to set a limit on it, but I'm going to do it every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central. And then if I ever have like an emergency or something come up, I'll just send out an email that week is canceled, but I don't see that happening very often. But if it ever does, I'll let y'all know. Yeah, every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central, I will be here and we'll just read through this book with each other, which may take a couple years. So, but I'm glad that you are here and that you're a part of this. Yeah, and unless you have anything else to add or any questions or anything, then I will see you next Wednesday. And I did want to ask also if you wanted me to not post this or if I could post it, it's completely up to you and it does not matter to me either way.
I think it would be okay. Yeah, I don't have any problem with it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And yeah. Awesome.
All right.
I'm
Have a
glad
good
that we
rest of
got
your
to
day.
do this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll send you that email
Okay.
through number 18 so you can read them.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.